Madam Deputy Speaker, where is everybody? There's nobody on the opposition besides the opposition whip. I'm quite surprised to look at the other side of the House and see these empty benches. I am sure the Shadow Secretary of State will do a great job and a great speech, but she shouldn't have to hold it all up by herself. International Men's Day was started in 1992 in Trinidad and Tobago, and we started debating International Men's Day in 2015 in this House. And I thought it was important to attend today because it's not a competition. I always attend International Women's Day, and me fighting for the rights of women doesn't in any way negate me fighting for the rights of men. And I think it's important that we do campaign, and I think it would have been nice to see more people in the House today, because I get a lot of abuse, a lot of misogynistic abuse online, with people saying, well, why don't we have an International Men's Day, or why don't men do? Well, we're having an International Men's Day debate and the House is not full. But I think this is a great time to talk about lots of men's charities doing amazing work. In my constituency in Brent East, I have Boys to Men, Moving On, 100 Black Men in London, Men United, Leap, Social Wellness Club. And I also have a lot of barbers that do lots of great work too. They have a system where when the men and the boys come in to get their hair cut, they encourage them to talk, to have debates. Madam Deputy Speaker, they're not always great debates, they always make sense, but anyway, they're encouraged to talk and share, and that is important. And there's a particularly good barber shop in Brent called Pfizer, and they teach their young men things like timekeeping. They have to come on time to get their hair cut, or else their hair doesn't get cut. So it's all these kind of soft skills that are really important in later life. And I like to highlight them because even during COVID, they made sure they had debates around COVID, keeping safe, getting the vaccination, and that was really important. And as my honourable friend said, that there's a growing range of charities, Men's Shed, Andy's Man Club, Prostate Cancer UK doing a lot of work, Harry's Hikes, Walking Men, and there's many, many more. And I think it's important to encourage those organisations. And this year there's 3 key themes for International Men's Day. 1, making a positive difference to the well-being and lives of men and boys. 2, raising awareness and funds for charities supporting men and boys' well-being. And 3, promoting a positive conversation about men, manhood and masculinity. And my honourable friend from Bishop Auckland mentioned this also in his speech around manhood and masculinity, and this is an area that I think I'd like to talk more on today, because a lot of how societies run is centred around men, and we know that from how clothes were made for emergency services to language. And so it does stand to reason that for equity purposes there has to be a focus, more of a focus on women. But as I said earlier, it's not as the exclusion of men. And being a man is not about being strong and silent. That is a very old thinking. And we do need to encourage more men to speak up and speak out. When it comes to health, there's 12,000 men die from prostate cancer every year. That is 1 man every 45 minutes. On mortality, 1 in 5 UK men do not live to 65. And suicide, 14 men die each day by suicide. It is an alarming number, and there is a continued crisis in male suicide. It is the leading cause of death under 50s. And I believe that there's a direct correlation between the increase in mental health amongst men and the growth of incels, which are involuntary celibates. That is a growing underground, very worrying group of young men. And this movement is defined by misogyny, which believes in the idea that men have lost the genetic lottery and destined to fail with women. Incels are often poorly educated boys and men, and they justify violence against women via their ideological stances. And I think it's important that we tackle this crisis head on and send a strong message from this house that incels are not in any way a good representation of a good man. Women are not the enemy. With one woman killed every 3 days by a man, we need men to speak up and speak out. And we need men to be louder than the social media toxic men that have very huge platforms. And we need them to speak louder than the men with power and the men in power and some of the men soon to get power. And so we have a lot of work to do. 20% of incels contemplate suicide every day. And there are well-documented terrorist attacks and mass killings by incels. So International Men's Day is important for everyone. The world will be safer if we all work together, if we work together to respect each other and make sure we are all kept safe. And I want to end on a quote by Alex Karras, who says, "It takes more courage to reveal insecurities than to hide them, more strength to relate to people than to dominate them, more manhood to abide by thought-out principles rather than blind reflex. Toughness is in the soul and spirit, not in muscles and in an immature mind." Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.